Hey, I'm John Tabler. Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the sauerkraut that I previously made, see how it came out, and actually taste it. And so it's been about a week and a half, a little bit over, and if you take a look, it's actually still green, slightly green, which it should be. It's really come out perfect. I'm going to open it. We're going to take a look at it. This other one I just wanted to compare because if you'll remember from the previous video, when I made this sauerkraut, this was an experiment of what would happen if you didn't squeeze any of the juice out and just put it in salt water. And you see, it's basically kind of turned brown, and there is a sour taste in there. And it's not really rotting, but it's off. It's an off taste and not good. So that's just as a demonstration. You don't want it to look like that after a week and a half and continually out. It'll still be crunchy. It'll still have that nice green look to it. It's remained sealed. So I'm going to open it and we'll take a look at it. Now we're not going to need this one. I'm not going to eat that. I just wanted to show you what one would look like if it's not done right. So we're going to put that back there. Now you can see that on the top I had the little glass plunger that had pushed down and kept it really, didn't entirely keep it under liquid, but it did keep it pressed down. What happens is when you're making it, you have the jar set in a bowl like that, and it actually will start bubbling so much that it sometimes bubbles up through the valve and will come out the top even some. So if there's any little bit of overflow, I want it to go into the bowl. And so when that happens, there's an expansion and then a retreat, and sometimes the water won't quite cover it. But by that time, the sour liquid will actually shield anything in there from anything that's pathogenic, is what I call it, something that would break it down or rot it or cause anything bad to happen. So that actually looks really nice in there. And what we'll do is when we take that out, if by any chance there got to be a little bit of air in there before the fermentation started happening and the sour taste came, then you can take off, the top layer if it doesn't look just as good as the rest of it. What's underneath, it won't harm it whatsoever. But this actually looks great. And really this little item, this glass weight that sits on the top, really worked really nicely. So that's something that would be worth getting. That you can use a small bowl or another object like that, but that actually helped quite a bit to keep that pressed down. You want to keep it in the liquid, and that's what makes it come out so nice like this. There's no discolored cabbage like in the other one. And so when you reach in, you take a little piece from the top, it's completely crunchy, sour, almost like a pickle. And so what we'll do is take some out. Put it in the bowl. You remember on this I put a couple leaves on top of it to help even better seal it, but with that weight on top, it pushed that down, so those even look great. And the energy that's in this, the living probiotics, which create a full spectrum of probiotics. I'm going to do a video in the future on this, but the best way to relate that is with sound. When you have a very low sound to a high sound, there's an infinite number of frequencies in between, or levels of the pitch of the sound, say on a piano from the low level to the high level. Well, in a full spectrum, it contains all of them. And it's not just one or two or three probiotics or four. like many store-bought or pill form probiotics that really aren't in that same form at all, and they're limited by the amount. It's a full spectrum. This is the way to create that. And you'll notice nothing that could rot this can even exist in this brine that is created. So therefore, it's preserved indefinitely. You can come back in years, as long as that's sealed or under the water, and it will still be crunchy and that color. And so it's a way of preserving, but the energy in the brine that actually preserves the cabbage, it preserves it because nothing that would break it down can exist in it. So therefore it stays preserved. Now when you eat that and you ingest it into your system, it creates that environment inside of you. So nothing that could cause any pathogenic things, breaking down, rotting, anything like that in your intestines can actually exist in there. And so it promotes health, wellness, life, longevity. And that's why probiotics are so important to have. They've been eliminated virtually from our American diet. And so that isn't in people's systems any longer. Well, when you add this to your system and you add it to food that you eat just as a condiment, it will actually act as a starter or a jump starter on the food that you eat. And so it will actually ferment that food too overnight in your system. So before your food passes through your system, when you add a probiotic like this to it, or a jump starter, it will have an effect on all the food that you ate that wasn't fermented, and it will actually bring that into line. I'll give you an example. Say you eat a salad, it's lettuce and tomato and cucumber. Well, you could ferment those things just like you fermented this, but it would take a week to do, at least. It will start happening after about 4 days. It passes through the digestion too quickly to actually ferment inside of you. So the way that you can accomplish having the same benefit is if you add some of this to that salad when you eat it, it will actually ferment that inside of you before it passes, because this acts as a jump start and it happens overnight. Just like when you add a starter to bread dough and it ferments it overnight, even though the starter took 4 or 5 days to make. It's a miracle. It's amazing that you can add some of this to the next batch and speed the fermentation time up by 5 to 10 times. And so when you eat this, not only is it great for you in the form just like that, but it has an effect on all the other food that you eat inside of you, and ferments that and creates that environment inside of you and passes it into your body and fights anything that would be the opposite of it. And so that's why it's so important. I wanted to show it to you. So now you don't have to do anything to that. I'm going to eat it like that. And it came out excellent. But if you really want to try some great things, you can pepper it. The salt, as expressed or as shown in the video, is just perfect to do the fermentation. But you can add a teeny bit more. Try it like that. Pepper is great on it. You can take some olive oil and drizzle a little olive oil over it. And until you've had this, I mean, there's nothing really there's really no way to describe it, because you, for the most part, can't buy this in a store. And not nowadays. You can buy something in one of the health food stores that's over in the cooling section that will be fermented, but I'm here to tell you, I bought most all of them, and none of them are near as good as this. And that is excellent. And so what you can do is you can begin to experiment when you do this. I've added garlic, cloves of garlic to it. It's amazing what happens to garlic when garlic ferments. It actually will be white when you put it in there, and it will turn purple, almost purplish green, almost like a flower in a way. And it has a very floral taste to it. Actually, after it ferments, it's not a harsh taste any longer. It's actually a flowery taste. And so that is very interesting. And garlic, as you know, you might know, is one of the most healthful things that you can eat. But it's a really hard thing to eat when it's burns your mouth and tastes terrible and makes a lot of people smell like garlic. So that's not good. Once you ferment it or pickle it, so to speak, it's many times called that, although I don't use that term because it gets misunderstood and then people think you're putting it in vinegar, and that is nothing the same at all. So don't think that pickling or pickles or anything like that is the same as fermenting your vegetables and creating a full spectrum probiotic. So this is the way that you do sauerkraut. It came out perfect. The video's up. I want you to try it. Put down in the comments down below how you're doing, and if you have any issues, hit subscribe and like. I'd really like to find out, what you think about it once you do it, because you're going to find it's amazing. But you're also going to find out that when you add it to your diet and put it on a hamburger, add it to your salad, that your digestion is going to become so much better. And for people who are trying to get probiotics in their diet, which should be everybody, because there are so many studies on how it raises your immunity, fights disease, just brings health, wellness, longevity to you. But no probiotics can even compare or touch a natural full spectrum probiotic, because this is what they're actually taking those things from, but they're not in this form any longer. They're not only in a pill form, which is essentially not living like this, but they're only a very small piece of the spectrum, which is best compared as one note on the piano instead of the entire keyboard and all the notes in between the keys. So give this a shot. We're going to do so many other probiotics and so many other things and fermentations, but I really want to hear how you do. You're going to love it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.